So I started, it was just another type of hunting. I started out when I was a kid, like everybody else, usually rifle hunting. Did that my first 2 years. After that, my dad had gotten into bow hunting. So in turn, me and my brother also got into bow hunting with him. We hunted that way for, for quite a while. And then I started taking my archery a little bit more serious, probably about 10, 12 years ago. And, had a friend of mine that works at a pro shop told me, you need to start shooting competitively. So I started shooting competitively probably 5 years ago, and did that for quite a few years, and then just recently went back to hunting. But I'm getting ready to change and go back to the competitive archery. My whole family's done it. All my friends have done it. So growing up, it was just kind of a natural thing. My dad, he always bird hunted and deer hunted and stuff. And so I just kind of, as I got old enough, I started following behind him. And then when I got old enough to hunt, I, took the hunter's ed and started hunting myself. And physically hunting, I was probably about 12, but I started going out with my dad when I was probably 6 or 8 years old, something like that. So the first animal I ever got was a deer. I was probably about 14 years old, super excited, of course, your first animal. Since then, I've been able to harvest several deer and other animals, and got into bird hunting, a little bit of pheasants and upland game birds, and just kind of always enjoyed the outdoors. Blacktail deer has always kind of been my favorite. I've always loved to hunt for blacktail. They call them the gray ghost. They're considered the hardest of the deer family to harvest. They love, the thicker it is, the better it is. They love poison oak. They love the blackberries, so it just makes it that much harder on them, harder to hunt them. But yeah, definitely blacktail deer has always kind of been my favorite to hunt. I'm very comfortable in the outdoors. There's plenty of times where I would go hunting off my back. Everything was on my back. At nighttime, wherever I stopped, I threw my sleeping bag out, and that's where I slept. And never had a problem doing that. Was just never really afraid of anything in the woods. I pretty much heard all, seen all. Had an incident with a bear at one point, but even that never really kept me out of the woods. We'd go back in anywhere from 7 to 8 miles, and I'd be in there for a week. The older I've gotten, I don't go quite as deep. I'll go maybe 4 or 5 miles now in, packed in, and same thing. It could be anywhere from 5 days to a week. It just depends on what's going on. If nothing's in there, then we'll kind of pack up, head back out, and find another area and go into it. It can be anywhere from me by myself to up to about 3 other guys is what group that I usually hunt with. It just depends on the time of year, situation, and animals. Certain animals I prefer to hunt by myself. Other animals it's better to hunt in a group. For me, the best thing in the woods is the turning everything off. You get out there at nighttime. You don't realize how dark it is till you're out there and you're away from the city. How relaxing it is. You don't have car noise. You don't have people noise, and that's part of why I like to be out there by myself. Was I don't have to talk to anybody. Not that I'm antisocial or anything, but I enjoy going out there, sitting on a hillside, leaning on a tree, sun in my face, wind blowing on me, and I'm out like a light. So there's just certain aspects of that by myself, and then also the brotherhood. You have your buddies, you get something down, you're all excited and celebrate together, and go from there. Have a lot of fun. Very relaxed, kind of almost starting to not really stress out, but you kind of realize, okay, it's over now. It's back to the grind, back to, going to work at night, back to, just normal living. There is good parts about it because you eat better, obviously, at home than you do out in the backcountry, but You know, I enjoy my time out there, but there's times where I enjoy coming home too. So it can be the weather. We've been over to Eastern Oregon, like over Labor Day weekend. We've been snowed on. We've been rained on. We've been the heat. I'm not a huge fan of heat. When it's over there and it's 100 degrees, I hate that. That's probably my biggest pet peeve as far as, being out there is just the weather. So it depends on the situation, if we're hunting for them, I'll look for the freshest track I can find. There's certain areas I'll look for, I'll look for, if it's high desert and stuff, I look for water holes, and then I'll check the water holes, see if the animals are coming in there, what animals are coming in by the track, how long ago they've been in there. Same thing, looking for fresh poop, stuff like that, whatever, and then from there, just kind of set up an area where we think we can catch them coming into water, going out of water, or feeding areas, anything of that nature. That trick we usually use as far as tracking animals. So if somebody was to harvest an animal and we have a hard time finding blood, and you get into situations like that where the ground is so dry that it just sucks up the blood and you literally can't tell it's there. So you'll get on your hands and knees and you can literally put your hands in their tracks and get to where that certain distance of that particular animal, and you can just basically crawl on your hands and knees and follow their tracks and catch up with them. Yeah, so right after it happened and I came home, it definitely ran over my head at night, over and over again. It would just kind of replay. I don't know necessarily if I would call it nightmares because I didn't wake up freaking out or anything, but it definitely played over and over again. And it was one of those, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to go talk to because, I don't want to be the crazy one, people looking at you saying, thinking you're a whack job. So I just kind of sucked it up, didn't really tell anybody for a while until probably 3 weeks after it happened. And my wife had found out about it and I wasn't even actually going to tell her. She just kind of found out about it on accident. And so I told her what had happened, and my wife's been one of those that she's never really kind of bought into anything with paranormal, or she's never really had anything happen to her. And I've always kind of had the belief if you want something to happen, you almost have to kind of open yourself to it. If you block yourself away from certain things, you're going to block it out of your head. Even if it happens to you, you're just going to block it out of your head and kind of look past it. And, like I said, I finally, with adding the tattoo, was able to talk to some people and help me kind of relax a little bit more. Talking to people that had the same situation, that were, have been around them for a while and been in that field as far as looking for them and having other encounters and stuff like that. And that helped me a lot. That helped me kind of relax a little bit about it and realize that it wasn't a bad thing that happened to me, as far as, I wasn't in danger or didn't appear to be in danger. And they just kind of helped me kind of get over it, and then got hooked up with some people and started going out, and that kind of helped, but kind of got me down a deeper rabbit hole, so to speak, with having more questions and no answers. As far as me being, lucky to see it, it's kind of a two-way street. It's okay, yeah, I can say I've honestly seen one, but in the same token, I don't go out and I don't announce it to anybody because, some people are going to say, oh, you're full of crap. Well, am I? Were you there with me? You don't know. Um, and some people that say they want to see it, don't always wish for something because it's not quite cracked up what it's supposed to be. It's not like it was, for me, it was not a happy, joyous, jump up and click my heels. I was happy to have it happen. Now, yeah, I'm glad I got to see it. But then, no, I wish I had never seen it. And even now, there's still times that I wish I hadn't seen it because it's kind of ruined some things for me, as far as spending more time in the woods. I definitely won't go in the woods by myself anymore. And I definitely won't just throw my sleeping bag wherever I end up that night. That won't ever happen again. So, it's kind of ruined some things for me. So, as far as judging what things that happen here, what we see, what we don't see, I have more, I've always been pretty open to things. I grew up in a house that we've had paranormal activity in. So I was always kind of open to stuff like that, I've heard people tell me some things that, you want to shake your head at and say, you're full of crap. But really, I don't know. There's some things out there that can't be explained and frankly may not ever need to be explained. It's sometimes it's best just to have that blind eye. But to go through and think that we're the only things here, running everything, in charge of everything. Boy, I don't think so. I definitely don't think so. It's definitely made me question things, aliens. Did I ever believe in aliens before? It was kind of the same thing. Well, I don't know, maybe. But with this, well, yeah, maybe it's more than likely going to be there. To where before it was just kind of, whatever. It's etched in my mind. I can play it over to a T in my mind, and it's been basically a year now. And I can tell you, it's just absolute vivid in my head. The sound of the tree knock, the stomping of him back behind me, the visual of seeing him sticking his head out at me, looking at me, staring at me, pulling his head back. It's vivid, very vivid. So, with like the conspiracy theory end of it, I know a lot of people think it comes down to the spotted owl situation we had back in the 90s. So if there's this undiscovered, primate living in the woods now, and okay, now they say, yeah, it's here. Well, how much land do we have to set aside for him? So does that affect logging? Is that going to affect, recreational areas? Is that going to affect hunting grounds? What's the grand scheme that it's going to affect? Do I think that's what's going on? I don't know. It's hard to say. I would like to say no. It's just people being ignorant and thinking that the general public is stupid and really have no idea what's going on. It very well could be a cover-up. It very well could be. Once I got my, threw my stuff out there on Facebook and met up with an investigator, and he hooked me up with Daryl Adams. So I contacted Daryl and, struck up a conversation with him, and he was looking kind of for the same thing I was, just looking for somebody to go find some answers out, see what was going on. And he had an area that was active, and his wife wasn't really fond of him going by himself, so I started going with him. And I remember the first time he took me there, it was probably in February of 2020. We get down in there, and there's just Bigfoot tracks everywhere. And my mind is blown to see tracks as large as they were and as deep in the ground as they were. So I'm a 6'2", 270-pound guy. I would jump up in the air and stomp as hard as I can on the ground next to the tracks, and I could get nowhere near as deep as these tracks were. So it was rather impressive. So we would go there every, about once a week. We'd go down and we'd meet and check out areas, and you know, again, we'd find a lot of tracks. We started finding branches and stuff that had been woven together, some viney maple. We started putting food out to see if we could catch them on a trail camera. We got weird pictures. We never got an absolute picture of one. Don't know if you can get a picture of them. We put trail cams out. I buried one in the ground one time. It's where the only thing that was hanging out of the ground was a sensor and the camera lens itself. So showed up the following week, and it had been pulled out of the ground and turned over on its side. Thought, oh, that's kind of weird. In the pictures that it was taking as it was coming out of the ground, you couldn't see nothing. It was like something had grabbed it from behind and picked it up and pulled it out. Typically, like with trail cameras, I've always, like with animals, I put them about 10 to 12 feet up in the tree. Bears are notorious for chewing up your cameras, and elk love to push on them, rub on them, anything they can do on cameras. Don't know why, but they do. So I put them up there, usually tree pegs in the tree to get up there, no branches, so the animals can't climb as easily up there to mess with them. So, you know, I knew it wasn't a bear or anything because it would have been chewed up. Found a stump, crammed it down into the bottom of this old rotten stump, piled more rotten stump pieces and bark and everything on top of it again, so just the front of the camera was visible, and it was close to the ground. It was maybe 6 inches off the ground. That camera, same thing, got pulled out of the stump, laid over on its side on the ground. Can I say Bigfoot did it? No, I don't know. Something pulled it out of the ground, something pulled it out of the stump, laid it down. We'd put up teepee structures where there would be maybe an inch at the bottom of them, openings all the way around, and we'd put food in there with, you know, whether it be cookies, hard-boiled eggs, apples, anything of that nature. We'd put in there, figuring, you know, if a bear comes in, it's going to knock the sticks down. If a squirrel comes in and takes the stuff, it's going to knock the sticks down. We would come back the following week, and one stick would be moved out of the way, and all the food would be gone. An animal is not going to be gentle like that. An animal, you know, a bear, squirrel, anything like that is going to knock it down when they take that food. We put some tape up on trees, double stick tape. I've gotten some fingerprints, but we didn't know what to do with it, and so we just had some fingerprints sitting at Daryl's house. With the COVID come around, I was machining parts for airplane engines for Boeing and some other companies. Well, our company went on furlough for a month, and during that month of April, on a full moon, I believe it was April 8th, I had asked Daryl, I said, hey, let's go up. You know, it's going to be a full moon tonight. It's not supposed to rain. Let's go up and see what goes on up there. So he says, yeah, let's do that. So we get up there, and it's probably an hour before dark, and we just kind of walk through our little area down in there and looking, and we get done doing what we're going to do, and we go back and we sit down, get some chairs out of the truck, go back down in the woods a little bit, sit down, and you know, I'm sitting there, and I've got my 44 on my side and old night vision Gen 1. So we sit there, and actually before we even headed up the hill, Daryl points off to the side and says, Mark, look right there, there's two orbs. 2 white orbs. And I turned, and I didn't get turned in time to see him. And I look back at Daryl, and he tells me, Mark, this is not good. When this happens, bad things happen here. They show up. And he says, it's not good. And, he's showing me in his arms, and they're just, the hair standing up on end, goosebumps everywhere. And he was genuinely really, really freaked out. And that's when we headed up to get the chairs. So we sat down, and as we're sitting there, he hears some noise coming down from the bottom of the canyon. And I can't hear super great, from working around machinery all my life. I have a little bit of hearing loss. And finally it had worked its way up enough to where I could hear it. And once I heard it, I'm like, okay, yeah, Daryl, I hear it. And so we're sitting there watching, and I catch an orb going from behind one tree to another one, a red orb. I see it, and so I start slapping Daryl, saying, look, right there, there's an orb. He didn't get a chance to see it. And I'm like, dude, this isn't good. Something's not feeling right. And, just wasn't feeling right. Just something, I knew something was up. Same thing. I had goosebumps all over. Hair on my arms was standing up. And so I threw up the night vision to look and caught one from about the waist up, or just below its waist, cut from behind one tree to another tree. And I freaked out, got up, I'm running backwards, trying to get out of there, essentially. Daryl's the same thing. We get in the truck and we tear out of there, just flying down the road going, I can't believe this happened. And I'm thinking the whole time, this 44 is not big enough. Not, like I said before, I wouldn't use it on one other than to protect myself, but it definitely is too big a pistol like that's not going to put it down. So we go back he says, I'll go get your chair tomorrow, because I took off and left my chair there. He grabbed his, and I'm like, dude, don't go there by yourself. Just, we'll go together, but we're not going back tomorrow. So about a week later, we went back, and I had a tape measure with me. I keep a tape measure in my backpack, and we get down in there. We get, I kind of get myself lined up to where it was standing, and line it up on this tree branch and stuff. So I walk down there and take the tape measure up to that tree branch, and it's about 8 foot. But that's not where it was walking. Where it was walking was about 18 inches lower on the ground, further down on the trail. So we're just looking at each other going, holy crap, this thing's like 9 foot tall at least. And we found a set of tracks right there to where, measuring heel to heel, it was 64 inches. So it's got a heck of a stride on it. We kind of figured what may have happened, because we always put food out every time we go out, that it thought we brought food, and it was on the trail to where that stump was, to where we always put the food at. That's the only thing we could think of. Just kind of like, your animals at home. My dog knows exactly when I pull up in my truck, and get out of my truck, and I can hear them in the house barking and crying for me. And I think it's the same thing. It just recognizes the sound of Daryl's truck. And every time we take food in, we've had rocks thrown at us down there. Can I say Bigfoot did it? I don't know. Something with hands had to throw that rock at us. We've been whooped at as soon as we've pulled up, got out of the truck, down at the bottom of the canyon. You'll hear them start whooping at us, tree knocking, all kinds of stuff. It's definitely a wild ride, and definitely, it's, I don't know. It's definitely changed my outlook now, more so seeing it the second time than it did the first time. You kind of, you question the first time, like, well, really? But there's no question now. Absolutely 100% no question. The only thing I'm looking to accomplish, I'm not out to prove he's there. I know he's there. Daryl, who I go with, we know he's there. We know he's real. And that's good enough for me. You're never going to convince everybody in the world until there's one laying there on a table or, one caught. I'm definitely not going to be the one to put one on a table, and I'm definitely not going to be the one to try and catch one. What I've seen, what I've been around is good enough for me. I'm going to continue to still look and to be honest, even if I get a picture, and I know there's pictures out there because I've seen them of actual Bigfoot, just like they say, why share it? Because somebody's going to say, oh, it's fake, it's makeup, it's this, it's a mask, whatever. So, why put yourself in that situation? So for me, even if I had absolute proof, 100% proof, I don't think I'd share it, other than with, the guys that I've been around that know it's there and know it's real. I'll share with them, but that's as far as it's going to go with me. I don't know. I've seen a lot of things with Daryl that I cannot tell you if it's an ape or it's something else. In the Bigfoot community, there's the apers and there's the woo. I wanted to believe 100% that it was an ape, but I don't think it is. I can track animals with the best of them, and there's times where I'll follow a set of tracks, and all of a sudden the tracks just disappear. Where'd they go? It's in the same, it's walking on the same ground, but why is it leaving tracks now? When it's leaving tracks that are anywhere from 1.5 inches to 2 inches in the ground, and now there's nothing. Where did it go? I don't know. Why are there orbs there before they're seen? I don't know. I've taken pictures with my trail cam where I've had put cookies in a tree and have the two bushes together like this. And one picture, you see all the cookies and it's set to take a 6-shot burst. In the very next picture, the bushes are shifted like this, no cookies in it, and back, and no cookies in it. All in a 6-shot burst. My camera's taking just bang, 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 6 pictures. Where did it go? I don't know. What's going to move that fast? I don't know. It's obviously it's not a deer or an elk or a bear like everybody else is going to say, because they don't move that fast, So it's hard to say. A lot of people say they shift from one dimension to another. Maybe. I don't know. I've had people tell me that they talk to them in their area telepathically. Do I believe it? I don't know. I'm not going to call the guy a liar. I don't know. I mean, I had the situation, my first one, where I put it out there in my head, hey, if you're here, show me a sign. Was it coincidence that it happened? I don't know. Maybe he heard me. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I think people just need to be a little more open-minded to go on living. I know a lot of people that spend a lot of time in the woods and say, oh, well, I've never run across one or I never seen a body. Well, I hadn't either, and it happened. I did. Am I lucky for it? Yeah, I guess I am. Do I wish that everybody would see them? I don't know. I think the way people are nowadays, or just in general, if it did come out, could they handle it? What are they going to do? Okay, well, now there's that species out there. Let's go kill it. Well, why do we have to kill everything? You don't have to kill everything, And coming from a hunter saying you don't need to kill everything, it's kind of, it doesn't need to be done. So do I want them to be completely out in the open? I don't know. It's hard to say. I just don't think people would treat it right, so to speak. So when you're shooting archery competitively, how it kind of got started for me was, hanging out at the pro shop. I always shot since I was 14. And, one of the guys had mentioned to me that worked there that I should start shooting competitive. So I started, and usually how that starts out, you're going to the local tournaments, getting your name out there. From there, you know, a shop will pick you up. So I got picked up by a local pro shop. Started getting out there a little bit more, traveling a little more up and down the I-5 corridor. Then companies start seeing you and knowing who you are and seeing how you're doing. And from there, then they approach you. Hey, you know, we'd like you to come represent our company. And from there, you know, they'll offer contracts. You either go with it, don't go with it. I always just kind of depended on what the situation was. If it was a company that I believed in, yes, I would do it. If I didn't believe in it, no, I didn't do it. I mean, it's one of those, I got to trust my equipment. Everybody has to trust your equipment. You don't trust it, you're going to have that little bit of doubt in your mind every time you're out shooting, hoping something holds up, hoping something makes it through that particular tournament. So just kind of, you know, like I said, I've gotten out of it, but I'm going back into it. And as I go back into it, I'm not going to chase the being sponsored. I want to do what I want to do under my, you know, what I say I want to do. I'm not in it for the money. There's a lot of money in it, but I definitely, you know, it's not for me. I just want to go and shoot and have fun. I've had times out in the woods where, you know, one of the greatest things, you know, for an elk hunter is when they go in the rut and the elk are just absolutely screaming and bugling at you. And there's just times that they get close to you and you can't even see them, but they're screaming and the hair's just standing up on the back of your neck. I've had deer, you know, just about walk on me, close enough that I could reach out and touch them, and they had no idea I was there. So kind of when you can beat them at their own game is kind of cool, but it's not very often that you ever beat them at their game. I mean, that's their world. Our world is completely different. I've seen cougars in the woods. I've seen bear, deer, elk, moose, coyotes, you know, a lot of smaller game, fox and stuff like that. There's a lot to see. The biggest thing is how you conduct yourself out there. If you're nice and quiet, keep to yourself, always work into the wind, never with the wind on your back. And that helps a lot. And then also the areas you're in. I mean, there's certain areas that obviously, you know, you're not going to see certain animals because they're not going to be in there. But for the most part, there's not too many animals in Oregon that I haven't seen. Yeah, so I've a couple times gotten into kind of sticky situations with predators, both times with a bear. There was one year we were over Eastern Oregon elk hunting, and it was snowing, and it was starting to get a little cold and had to use the restroom, so I thought I'll hike out of the woods. And it's probably that particular place I wanted to get away from. I needed to get out about 2 miles, 2.5 miles. So I started hiking out and got to some super thick brush. And so I kind of ducked down, pulled my bow behind my back as I went through, and I stepped up. There was a bear cub standing about 3 feet from me. And so some not so nice words came out of my mouth, and the bear cub looked at me and started bawling, and bear cub took off running, and mama come running right up on me and stopped, same thing, about 3 feet from me. She's stomping the ground, snapping her teeth at me, and luckily the cub had bawled again, and she took off after the cub. And so I hit the ground puking and shaking. It had scared me so bad. And then last year in camp, I had a bear come in the middle of the night. I had an ice chest leaning up against my tent, and I had my cot just on the other side of the tent. And the only thing in the ice chest was like Gatorade and some water and stuff like that. And I felt him pushing on it, and I just hollered, and it took off on me, snapping its teeth. So that's the only situations I've ever had. Definitely the mama bear one scared me. The other one, not so much, because I kind of figured out what was going on, and I could hear them as they were walking, as it was walking in to begin with, so it didn't catch me off guard. The year that I had where the sow come at me with the bear cub, it was illegal for us to carry a sidearm. We couldn't carry a pistol. We could carry bear spray, but I never did. I always just had my bow with me. The year after that, fortunately, they changed it where bow hunters can now carry a sidearm, and so I always have a 44 on my hip whenever I'm in the woods. Even if I'm not hunting, if I'm out in the woods, period, I've always got that pistol on my hip. So the guys that I normally hunted with, we really never talked about too much about Bigfoot. I mean, it was just one of those things. Myself, I always kind of thought about it. There was the possibility that they could be out there, but, I didn't know. I wasn't for sure. I've had a friend that, in the last couple years before I had my encounter, that he had told me he had an encounter, had it come in, throw logs at his truck and hit his truck. He's been screamed at, everything else. And so, that kind of always, excited me. Yeah, but it was one of those, I never buy into anything until I can kind of see it for myself. If somebody comes up and tells me something, strange, can I say, oh, you're full of crap? I don't know. I wasn't there. So, you just kind of take it and put it in the back of your head and just, it's there. I'd been going over to this particular area in Eastern Oregon for a couple months, since about mid-May, running trail cams over there, putting out minerals for the animals so I could catch them on camera. And, I go back every 2 to 3 weeks. Always had animals every time I come in. Always had them on camera. I mean, it was just like clockwork. Elk, deer, bear, every single time. So I get there on a Monday and, pull in, get camp set up, go out hunting that evening. Didn't get into anything. Next morning, go out again, same thing. As I'm sitting in my tree stand, back behind me, I hear some noises, some grunting and stuff going on behind me that I just never recognized, and just kind of thought, well, whatever, just something else back there making a noise that I'm really not sure of. So one of the evenings, I believe it was Wednesday evening, I sat down by this water trough, and this particular water trough is notorious for having a lot of bears come around. I thought, maybe I'd catch a bear this evening, and because as a hunter, you're always playing the wind. You always hunt with the wind in your face. So I was set up that night, wind in my face, and just kind of sat there. And I had heard a podcast early on with Les Stroud talking about his encounters that he'd kind of had, and that they had telepathically talked to him. And I kind of along the lines of, well, can you call the guy a liar? Well, I don't know. I wasn't there. So in my mind, I did the same thing. I said, if you're out there, let me know. So it showed up. Yeah, it was in my head. So I wasn't putting it out there like I was hollering, or anything like that. I just, in my head, just said, hey, if you're out there, give me a sign. And probably 20 minutes after that, I hear a twig break behind me. There's a lot of dead windfall back behind me. And I hear it break, and I'm just, in my head, I'm thinking it's an animal coming in. And I'm like, crap, it's coming in for the water. I'm going to get busted. It's going to smell me. So I grab my windicator, and I'm checking the wind, and sure enough, it's blowing back there. So as I sat there, it just comes up right back behind me. And I mean, it's probably 15 yards behind me, maybe. So then it works off to my left-hand side. So I kind of, I'm the whole time I'm thinking it's an animal. So I knock up my release on my string, and I'm kind of leaning out, looking out to see where it's going to come out on the trail. And as I sit there and I'm watching and watching, it would stop and it would hang up and it just wouldn't step out. So then it would it would take off and go to my right, and it would go the same thing, just go way out there. And I'm thinking it's going to step out, and it just never would step out. And just back and forth, 3-4 times behind me. So after it does that, it gets right back behind me again. And then I hear this loud tree knock, just knocks, just bam, 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 really loud, really fast, and really hard. And in my head, I'm like, holy crap, what is that? You know, I'm not used to hearing that in the woods. You know, I'm like, I'm out. It's getting close to dark. I'm getting out of here. So I threw my pack on, threw my pistol back in my holster, and got out of there, headed out. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going back in there. So I go back the next morning up on the hillside again, all week long. Every morning I'm up on the hillside like clockwork, 9:30 every morning. Something walks through there, grunting, making weird noises that I'm not used to. So I decide one night on Sunday or Saturday night that Sunday morning I'm going back in there. I'm going to get sat down a good hour or so before dark and see what's going on back there. So I get back in there, get myself set up behind a log with a little bit of reprod behind me. It's a big, thick reprod patch with some openings. So I get set down and, you know, sun comes up, everything else, you know, and I'm kind of sitting there, and off to my left, I just catch a little bit of movement. So I kind of turn my eyes real slow and my head real slow over to look, and I see a head pop out and go right back. And so in my head, I thought, oh, it's a hunter, another hunter. But I thought to myself, that's kind of weird. I never heard him come in, and I should have heard him come in because it's a lot of windfall in there, and you just can't be quiet in there. You sound like a herd of elephants going through there. And so I just kind of kept staring at that same spot, and then it stuck its head out. And it was what, you know, doesn't exist, supposedly. Bigfoot sticks its head out, stares at me for probably 10 to 15 seconds, and then slowly pulls his head back. I just sat there dumbfounded, like, what in the hell did I just see? These things don't exist, you know. People talk about them, but they don't exist, you know. And, you know, people, I don't care what people say. You're not going to change my mind. I've been in the woods long enough. I know what I've seen. I knew, you know, it wasn't a bear. People are going to say, oh, it's a bear. It was not a bear. Absolutely 100% not a bear. So I sat there for, like I said, probably 5 minutes, just kind of trying to gather my thoughts and get my wits about me. Got up, headed back up over the hill, grabbed my gear that was on the other side of the hill, hit the bottom of the canyon, went to the camp, packed up camp, had it loaded in the truck, got in the truck, locked the doors, and by then the adrenaline crash and adrenaline wore off, and I just kind of crashed. And you know, sitting there, I even realized I had peed my pants. It had scared me so bad, and I had no idea. And next day, I was out of the woods, and when I left, I'm like, I'm not going back. I'm done. You're not going to pay me enough money in the world to get me back in the woods again. Which was sad because that's kind of always been in my life. And so come home, didn't tell anybody, didn't know what to do, didn't know who to say it to. I ended up getting a tattoo of a Bigfoot on the back of my calf and an outline of the state of Oregon and a star where it happened. And I put it out on a Facebook page and was contacted by an investigator and was able to talk to him and kind of tell him what happened, what was going on, you know, that this had happened. And he kind of explained things to me, and, you know, did you feel like you were in danger? And I'm like, well, you know, not really. And he said what you ran into was pretty stereotypical, you know, they just coming out, checking you out, and they're out of there. You know, maybe that's normal. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But it definitely changed my life. You know, I didn't want to hunt anymore. So on my way back to the truck, once I'd finally kind of got my wits about me to, you know, it was scared. I didn't know what to think. You know, was this thing going to come after me? Was it going to leave me alone? I never heard it leave. I never heard it walk off. Nothing. So I didn't know if it was still there. I had no idea if it was following me. And frankly, you know, I was scared shitless. I mean, I was walking out of the woods with my hand on the pistol and you know, to see a 275-pound guy sprinting down a mountain, it's rather impressive, you know. Like I said, you know, you don't know what to think. I mean, it's just, you see something that doesn't exist, or, you know, supposedly just doesn't exist. You know, you hear all the stories and stuff. And again, I've always thought, oh, you know, maybe not, you know, until I see something, you know, and I'm not going to judge anybody, but, you know, there's times that I wish I'd never saw it. Just because it's kind of changed perspective on being in the woods. I mean, this year I went back hunting again, and I'm done. I don't have, I've been out there. I try and go and put the effort out, but I don't have the wherewithal to be out in the woods anymore. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't, you know, if I'm going to run into another one, what's going to happen. So it's just kind of, this definitely changed my perspective on things. That's for sure. You know, it makes the guy think, well, what else is being, you know, hidden from us, you know, is, you know, aliens or, you know, anything of that nature. You know, we don't know, you know, and put blinders on and say, you know, nope, it's only this, you know, there's no such thing. It's only what I can see right here. People are foolish. They're absolutely 100% foolish. I really had a hard time judging distance. I mean, as far as how tall he was, because we're in the reprod and he just kind of stuck his head out. So I don't know exactly if he was completely standing up. But from where he was, I would guess maybe 7 foot, you know, somewhere around there. He was about maybe 35 to 40 yards from me. So he was relatively close, you know, and distance, I'm, you know, with shooting archery forever, I'm pretty good at judging my distance. And, you know, he was kind of a chocolate brown that I saw. I can't tell you any specific details, you know, if he had wrinkly face or anything like that, because I was just in such shock of what I was seeing. He was very ape-like looking. You know, so I know a lot of people say some of them are human. This one definitely looked like very like an ape. And, you know, for people to say, oh, no, it's a bear. Bears and monkeys don't look the same. I mean, it's, I don't care what you say. It definitely is going to change your outlook on things when you have something like this happen. You know, as far as, you know, him not being aggressive or whatever, how do I know? I mean, I don't know. Maybe at that particular moment he was trying to check me out. He could have been looking at me for lunch. I did not know. You don't know what to think, other than, for me, it was just panic. It was like, what do I do? What do I do? You know, and like I said, I sat there for probably a good 5 minutes, not knowing what to do, what to think. You know, is he there? Is he gone? So I never heard it leave. You know, it pulled its head back, and that was it. So. And even, you know, what the original tree knocking, I never heard him walk in. I heard that one branch break, and then I never heard him again until he was right on top of me, when he was right behind me. So, just like anybody that can elk hunts, they'll tell you they sound like a herd of elephants coming through the woods. But when they want to be quiet, those things you'll never hear them. Absolutely never hear them. So, I had no idea where he was. I had no idea how to feel. No idea run, stay. I just kind of, for that 5 minutes, was frozen and not knowing what to do, what to think, other than what in the hell did I just see? Where did he go? What am I going to do? And got up, got out of there. Absolutely made eye contact with him. There was no question. We looked straight at each other. There was no question. That I can tell you, the main portion of his eye was dark. I don't know if it was black, brown, whatever, and with the white around, similar to ours. But yeah, we definitely made eye contact. Making eye contact with something that doesn't exist, you just don't know what to think. I mean, you just are kind of dumbfounded. It's like, what? A double take. You don't understand. I didn't understand what I was looking at when I first saw it. It took a second for it to sink in at what I was staring at. And like I said, there was confusion because not knowing where it came from, where he went, anything like that. So there's definitely a lot of things go through your head when you see him. I want to say I believe it's more ape than human, but it may have human tendencies. I'm not real sure. For that particular situation, all I saw was its head come out. His head he looked like an ape. Big flat nose, big swept back forehead, heavy jawline, and like I said, he was kind of a chocolate brown. Not a lot of facial hair, but a lot of hair around, up on top of his head and down through below his jawlines. But as far as around his eyes, his nose, and his mouth and stuff, it was clear, no hair. I've had people ask about him being in a suit, and it's no, man. It's just a person, to be honest, would be a fool. I personally would never shoot one, but there's many people that if they see something out there, they're thinking, there's $100,000 right there. Somebody's going to pay me for that body, and they're going to shoot you. So for somebody to be out there dressed up like that, you would be a fool. You would be an absolute fool.